I want to go see Paul Lynde's memorabilia. They even have his car here. And Paul's collection of memorabilia is located here at the Knox County Historical Society Museum. So take a look at that. That is Paul's Thunderbird. The story on this was that he bought this car and drove it around Hollywood and everything, and then gave it to his sister. And apparently I think his sister used to drive out and visit him with her husband, and they would drive this. So this was his car when he was here in town visiting family. He would drive it around. And then when he passed away, he left it to her, and they continued to drive it. The inside now, it's been restored. It's immaculate now, but apparently it was pretty worn out on the inside when the current owner got it. His sister sold it to a man who was a photographer here in town that was friends with Paul, and he restored the whole car and then has it here. Look what a great job he did. And little Paul heads in there, and they'll even let you get inside. Isn't that beautiful? Has 90,000 miles, so he used to drive it here in town, he used to drive it LA, and then cross country. But then look over here, they have all kinds of great memorabilia from his family members and people here in town. Merry Christmas, Paul, 1979. He ended up buying Errol Flynn's house. Isn't that cool? Grew up a heavy kid in Ohio with a dream to just someday be rich and famous, and then ends up living in Errol Flynn's house with his dog. Then here, this is signed. It says, there he is the center square. It says, "Sorry you went here. I love you." And then this is really cool. This is a photo of him and his siblings. He was the 5th of 6. He's the little one in the middle. So this would have been before his, I think, sister was born. And then there he is in the Mount Vernon Boy Scouts. Now they were telling me here that Paul did attend his high school reunions. If they did a celebration here in town to him, like a Paul Lynde Day, he would come. And of course he wasn't around for 1994, but this was his graduating class, 1944. And this was, he did have a Paul Lynde show for a short time where he played a lawyer with a family, and his son, the blonde-haired kid, was kind of like Archie and Meathead, that relationship. And I mentioned the local photographer that bought the car and restored it. That's him with Paul right there. And that is also him with Paul and his wife. His name's John. Then there's Paul's key to the city of Mount Vernon. On this playbill, you can see this was from 1952 at the Royal Theater, and Paul is up there in the top. Kind of the flat top looking hair. I believe they told me that was one of his classmates when he came back to visit one of the times. That is Paul's high school yearbook, and not just the year, it's literally his, because you can see his name is down there. There's a great funny photo of Paul with Dean Martin. And some of Paul's awards. This was from the Hollywood Squares. His Emmy from 72, 73. That was presented on Paul Lynde Day here from 1963 in Mount Vernon. And that is also the resolution for Paul Lynde Day. And then a great picture of him with a fur coat. There is another nomination honor for the Hollywood Squares for the following year, 73-74, and then a Central Ohio Award, Pacemaker of the Year, 1971. Then I mentioned that he went to college with Charlotte Rae and Charlton Heston and Cloris Leachman. There's his degree. On the cover of Ohio Magazine, December of 1978. And these used to be all over town, and they said they don't know why they aren't anymore. We just kind of have all speculated that they were probably stolen, but now when we get to this case, this is kind of cool because, you know, I mentioned when we were at the gravesite that Paul had a weight problem for part of his life. And this woman, Beverly, she was a fan of his, and she wrote to him telling him that she was a big fan, that she was having trouble losing weight, and he wrote her back and gave her like recipes and tips on how to lose weight, and they became friends. And she ended up collecting tons of Paul's stuff, and in fact was such a big fan that she moved here to town and received her mail as the Paul Lynde Museum of Mount Vernon. And when she passed away, she wanted some of her memorabilia to be left here. So here are some of the photos that she donated, made out to her from Paul for Beverly. Happy, Happy Hunting, 1979. Chief Vernon Elk, the Villain. And then this one also is made out to Beverly. Mary, 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 always, Paul Lynde. And then there's another Mary, Mary, Merry Christmas to Beverly, 1971. And he used to apparently come back and have most of his Thanksgivings and Christmases here in Mount Vernon. Now there's one of his comedy records, and of course he was famous for Bye Bye Birdie. And then there he is on the Villain poster, starring Kirk Douglas, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Foster Brooks, Anne Margaret, Ruth Buzzy, Mel Tillis, and Paul Lynde. So here's Paul acting in a play at Northwestern. That's him up there in the top. And then Paul's high school graduation photo. And this is showing that they take the car out and have it in parades all the time, and they use those cardboard heads of Paul to drive around with. And they also put the car in auto shows.
But it's too hard to get it in and out of here, and but it is crystal clean, that's for sure.
Wow.
I've had guys that have restored cars in here looking at it, and they said, boy, the guy that painted this really was careful. There's no drips or runs or anything. And
so they told me it's okay for me to get inside the car. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that, right? Of course, I knew his voice not only as a kid from the Munsters and Bewitched and Hollywood Square reruns, but he was also the voice of Templeton in Charlotte's Web. They have so much cool stuff here to check out. And I mentioned that Paul had a dog that lived with him in Errol Flynn's house. That was his dog, and he named it after his character's name in Bye Bye Birdie. There he is on TV Guide. I was really interested in that pack of cigarettes. Of course, I had to ask about it, and they said, you know, as kind of funny as it is, it was somebody here in town that worked in an office, and Paul came back for one of the Paul Lynde Day celebrations a couple days early to help with the arrangements and everything, and he was smoking cigarettes out in the lobby. And when they called him to go in, he had finished the pack and left the pack sitting out there, and the woman that grabbed it was the receptionist, and she just thought, hey, that's Paul Lynde's cigarette pack. And then when the museum opened, she offered it to them, and they said, of course we would love to have it. So kind of cool little thing here. And this is one of my favorite things here. This is a drawing that he did, that Paul did himself when he was about in 6th grade, of Put in Bay. That's a little area here in Ohio that people go to, kind of little resort island. People usually go and drink, and it's kind of a touristy thing, but He used to apparently go there. He was in church as a kid, and they had like a church camp there. So he drew it from his memory, and they framed it and even signed it down here. That was something I believe his sister donated. Original piece of Paul Lynde art. Now, I was told that Beverly donated so much stuff they don't even have it all on display, but some of the things that she donated they're gonna kind of pull out and show us. They have some of Paul's wigs from some of his acting performances.
That's the Broadway play.
Oh wow, that's his real script, huh?
That's his real script. It's got his name on it.
What do I need to do today, Lynde? I don't know.
Paul's signature.
Oh yeah, he did. He signed it. He's probably got his little notes throughout the whole
Yeah, he does. I'll show
book
you
and
some
everything,
of that.
all his acting notes.
When they made little changes in the script.
Yep. Mr. McAfee, where he got the name for his dog.
Yep. It was timely, and everybody kind of appreciated that.
So here's Paul performing, doing his poet bit where he's holding a book with a lot of his poetry and all the bookmarks and everything. And they actually have the book right there. How neat is that? That is so cool. We have to look and see what he wrote inside, don't we?
Yeah.
Is there anything?
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can. That's in New York, and that's all.
Oh, that's great. He pasted in a piece of his own stationery with his bit on there.
Isn't that neat?
My newfound friend. That is great. That is so cool.
Yeah, I flipped when I saw that.
New York, New York, New York. A bottle of champagne in search of a cork. That's great. This is really neat. What a cool piece to have.
Oh, yeah.
They actually think that performance might have been on the Ed Sullivan Show. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this vlog. This was a lot of fun for me. I've wanted to see these sites for quite a while, and I think it was totally worth the wait. If you're new here, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Please ring the bell for notifications, and have a good night. Goodbye.